Could true manifestation be less about getting what we want and more about aligning with what is already unfolding? Hello, my beautiful souls, and a huge warm welcome back. This week, I'm joined once again by my own beloved Kabbalah teacher, Mike Bais. Mike is a physiotherapist, counsellor, university lecturer, and author with many years of private practice and has now been on the show many times before. In this episode, Mike and I explore manifestation through its deeper metaphysical roots. We touch on how morality shapes what we bring into being, the psyche as a passage between the unseen and the physical, and the limits of trying to manifest from the surface of the mind alone. Together, we reflect on unconscious manifestation and how it plays out all of the time, and why bringing consciousness to that changes everything. Listen to this if you've ever questioned why vision boards only can go so far, wondered what really makes manifestation work, or felt the tension between your desires and what serves something greater. And before we jump into all of that good stuff, first, it's time for your weekly omen from the algorithmic oracles. A genie echoes from the lamp. Ignore subscribe, and your feed fills with wishes gone sideways and yesterday's tips. Subscribe, and weekly insights on soul aligned creations appear as if on cue. Plus, your hair shall always fall just right. Go on, don't miss the magic. And if you're struggling with the challenges of walking your soul path in this crazy modern world and would benefit from guidance, kinship, and support, come join Unio, the community for wild sovereign souls. You can discover more and join us by hopping over to bemythical.com/Unio or click the link in the description. And now back to this week's episode. Let's dive in. Hello, Mike. A huge welcome back to the show for about the millionth time.
I don't know how many times, but it's always good to be here with you. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. And I was chuckling to myself actually as I was preparing for this, thinking, I don't know that we've ever done an episode. I don't mean you and I mean on this show ever. I don't know if I've ever done an episode on manifestation. It's not something I thought I would ever do. And yet it suddenly feels like the perfect topic and one that's been very alive. It's been something you and I have been talking about in our current quest in Unio. It's all about that kind of manifestation from soul. And it's something that, of course, is spoken about in kind of more sort of new agey spiritual circles, a whole bunch. And it suddenly felt like, looking at this from the kind of deeper metaphysical truth of manifestation suddenly feels like something really juicy and also a real service, because I think what's occurring to me is those of us that perhaps are going deeper on some kind of soulful spiritual path, we can, I guess, see things like manifestation as, irrelevant or shallow or just, simply misunderstandings and dismiss it altogether. And what I'm recognizing more and more is understanding its real place in the metaphysical truth of reality allows us to be conscious in how we are manifesting, because it, of course, is something we're actually doing all the time. So I was just thinking, this is actually perfect. I never thought I'd be doing a show on manifestation, and here we are. And I'm really glad to be doing it with you, because we can really get into, very specific metaphysical laws and principles behind manifestation. So I'd love to begin with just understanding a bit about your own journey around manifestation. I'm sure there was a point, at some point where you were playing around with this notion of manifestation before you had the understanding that you have now. What did that look like?
Yeah, well, basically quite childish. And also in my childhood time, this notion of this universe or the existence itself being more than just like a horizontal manifestation of things. And so I had this idea there must be more to it. So that's the miraculous and magical dimension to it. And that things do not just come about, they come from the unseen, whatever that is. And you need something actually to manifest it. Whether you prevent something from manifesting or you want something to manifest. So, for example, in the negative way or connotation of manifestation, I would sometimes try to prevent things from happening. And then I would say to myself as a kid, this is not going to happen. I only think it would be, but it will not. It's only because I think about it. So that's super simple. And yet there's something that I addressed within my own psyche that somehow unconsciously knew that the psyche itself, the world of the psyche or the soul, is it like a vital passageway in the manifestation from the higher unseen worlds into the world of the here and now, the physical manifestation of things. So that's one of my first experiences, and basically it's still there. So it still seems to work. Yeah.
Yes, so that's there's a couple of things that really stood out in what you've just shared, that it can be, for many of us, those kind of like nice breadcrumbs, like magical breadcrumbs into seeing there's something more at play. There is, as you say, this unseen element when it comes to this material reality. Like, where is it coming from? How does it come into being? And there is, again, for many of us, it's that kind of stepping stone into a deeper spiritual understanding, and not to be dismissed. However, there can be, I guess, ways that it doesn't work for us because we're not understanding the full game at play,
Yeah.
or ways that it perhaps doesn't unfold in a way that truly serves us. Again, because we're not understanding what's really happening behind the scenes. What have you noticed, in either personally or in the work that you do, the ways that without really understanding what's truly happening with manifestation, it can have these kind of unforeseen results, let's say?
Yeah. Well, first of all, what I would like to say about it as well is that when we are born, we live in the world of the manifest. But the process of manifestation is already there within the unseen worlds, we have said. Sometimes in certain tradition, you call that the metaphysical domain or the metaphysical realms. They are the causation of manifestation, but they're also within the process of making sure that that this world, this universe, becomes something. So the process of manifestation is going on all the time, whether we participate in it not consciously. And that was something that I felt on quite an early age. And so how do you participate as a human being within that process? And well, of course, ordinary life doesn't give the answers to it, or you have to have a certain spontaneous insight in how that happens. But well, certain traditions, they do talk about it. What is the process behind the manifested world, and how can you participate within it? Yeah.
I feel as though you didn't fully answer. What you've said makes sense, but what I would
Yeah.
really like to know is, when we're not participating in it fully, I mean, I think there's probably different stages actually thinking
Mm.
about it, in that there's a way that we can just see that life is just material, dead matter, and
Hmm.
that we
Yeah.
don't really participate in bringing the unseen into
Hmm.
manifest being,
Yeah.
then we might get this kind of a sense of, oh, I can manifest, and might start to play with things like law of attraction.
Yeah.
And then there's a kind of another part where we truly see how we can participate. But when we're in that kind of that middle stage where we're sort of playing with the ideas of manifestation,
Yeah.
what have you seen can go
Hmm.
wrong, in quote marks, them not have the, because we lack that understanding, because that is where a lot of people are stuck.
Yeah.
It's or they kind of see that actually this isn't the whole game, and as I said at the beginning, kind of just dismiss the idea of manifestation altogether. So it feels
Yeah.
like quite an important stage to really understand and acknowledge before we kind of move into what's actually possible. Does that make sense?
I think it does. Yeah. And again, the stage prior for physical manifestation is the world of the psyche. You have to come up with a certain idea before it manifests,
Hmm.
and everything can go very well in that world, but it can also go very wrong. So, for example, in magical thinking or any magical intervention to make something happen, um,
Hmm.
it's not just up to the procedure how to come to something, but of course also to the intention behind it. So, what do you want to manifest, and for what kind of particular reason? What is the motivation behind it? Um, and that is a very that is a question within the human condition, because we manifest a lot of things all the
Mm.
time on different levels of manifestation, whether this be culturally or politically or spiritually. We manifest a lot of things, um, but there's more than neutrality to it. So we also have the moralistic side to manifestation, and that's
Mm.
where it's important not only to consider how to manifest it through the psyche, but the psyche is also a filter to do with morality and you know what are you going to manifest, and what motive. That's very important there.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, because that's the thing. It's we can have well, I've noticed actually there can be a kind of sense of beginner's luck when it comes to people think, oh, I can actually manifest, and can manifest really quite miraculous things. Has certainly happened for me.
Mm.
And as you say, there's a power here that needs to be used wisely, because what can be manifest either isn't, let's say, for the greater good, or isn't actually even something that is serving for the person themselves.
Mm. Yeah.
It could well be that what we manifest comes with unforeseen consequences or limitations. It's yeah, it can be a bit of a kind of Midas touch, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be there is a kind of safety clause built into that process of manifestation, that you can almost only manifest the things that are in your range of consciousness.
Mm,
Although there are exceptions, of course. I mean, look at certain people who have caused major changes to the world and to humanity for the good, but also for the bad.
mm,
You can see that their range, of their extent within consciousness seems to be quite large. So what they could do, but then still you have the consideration of the morality and which is also at play,
mm,
and the law of causation doesn't consider for us if it's good or bad.
mm.
It's just a law that you understand how it works, that you can manifest, and and you have to consider yourself from the level of the soul, they sometimes say, if this
Yes.
is meant to be or not meant to be.
Mm,
But yeah.
hmm. So let's perhaps talk a bit about um, looking at the kind of bigger picture. And of course, there's only so much we can do justice to in the space of an episode. But
Yeah,
looking at the, I guess, higher metaphysics that often aren't spoken about when people are talking about things like manifestation and the law of attraction,
yeah,
what do you see is almost always missed that is actually at play?
yeah. Maybe good to say, first of all, that from a more scientific point of view, the physical world is the world of manifestation, or is the manifested world. But in a lot of metaphysical systems, manifestation is actually also the stages of the world prior to physical manifestation that are included within the process and in manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you an example. For within Kabbalah, but in other traditions as well, they say that everything that manifests comes from the unmanifest,
Mm-hmm.
which in certain ideas is God.
Mm-hmm.
Not sometimes the God you read in the Bible, for example, but it is the unmanifest. So
Mm-hmm.
it is the unbeing out of being comes, out of which
Mm-hmm.
being comes. So the whole manifested universe is more than just the totality of the physical universe and physical existence. It's also the psyche. It's also that a bit strange world of metaphysics where there are laws, how things come into being.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think, a important point to address as we start with this. Yeah.
Mm. And I
Mhm.
guess the going back to what we were saying earlier,
Yeah.
it's helpful to bear in mind that all of this is happening all the time anyway.
Yes.
It's really a question of consciousness. How conscious are we?
Yeah.
And when, as we become more conscious, we therefore have choice. We can participate in the unfolding,
Yeah.
um, which is an obvious thing to say, but I think sometimes we forget that, like as you said, this is happening. This manifestation machine is
Yeah.
happening all the time, and it's consciousness that gives us the opportunity to be part of that.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
And you said that word consciousness, and often we associate consciousness with our personal consciousness. But in metaphysics, for example, they say consciousness is the ground of all being. It means it is the backdrop on which the whole of existence manifests.
Mm-hmm.
Some people call it spirit or have another name for it, but let's call it consciousness. So it's the ground of all being, consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And we as human beings, we participate within that consciousness. We have the ability to tune into that consciousness, and we identify with that consciousness, and then we call it me.
Mm-hmm.
And from that me, that identity, we have the ability to participate in creation and in manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
So um, the thing is with certain of these popular, whether it being from science or New Age ideas, that you can manifest anything like out of thin air, which is in theory is possible, but it would mean that you would occupy within your consciousness the whole of the process of manifestation. It
Mm-hmm.
means you have to be aware of your divinity.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be aware of the world of metaphysical principles, how it manifests. Your psyche has to be known, and you have to have a physical body to manifest it.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea, just by simply saying that the brain or the mind can manifest anything at any time, goes only so far as your consciousness reaches. Because the
Yes.
consciousness is the
Mm-hmm.
agent through which the mind can be used to manifest something in the body. Shall I give
Mm.
you a very simple example?
I just want to clarify something before you
Sure.
do, because
Yeah.
there is a distinction I think is really helpful to bear in mind as we're journeying with this, because there's a difference between, I think you said, knowing oneself as divine.
Yeah.
Um, and this is the difference between having that, understanding that we're all
Mm.
divine
Yeah.
versus it being this embodied moment to moment truth,
Yeah.
which is beyond, most of our imagination. It isn't
Mm.
just this idea of it, is a lived experience, which is
Yes.
not very average.
It's not. No, exactly. Yeah. And
So do go on.
yeah, so if for example I would unconsciously or consciously think about happy things, um, I would feel happy, not just psychologically but also physically. I could
Hmm.
feel happy, and this happens
In
because
terms
of
of
the
hormonal level, like
yeah, exactly.
nervous system response. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. So that
Mhm.
is a manifestation in the interaction between the psyche and the body.
Mhm.
And it happens in the now, like you said. It happens every moment. So all these processes, whether it's good for us or not, are happening all the time. But
Mhm.
it's the manifestation of the psyche in cooperation with the body.
Mhm.
But not knowingly, for most of us, we are not aware of the principles behind it. That's the
Mhm.
metaphysical dimension behind that, but behind those worlds of the manifestation.
Mhm.
So we are using that possibility all the time. Most of it is unconscious and
Mhm.
is in accord with the laws of the universe, and we should be happy about it because otherwise we have to consider everything and be conscious of every action that happens spontaneously in the body, like your blood pressure or your breathing is a manifestation of the organism itself.
Mhm.
Um, so to manifest things outside of the natural world and habitation of what we have, you need to be also acquainted with that world. So
Mhm.
outside of the psyche and outside of the bodily world. And that is something that is not always considered. So if you want to manifest, these stupid examples about manifesting more money or a car, um, that again, it is in theory, it's possible to do it. Um, but in most magical traditions, they say you better work for it because it's easier to earn the money than to manifest it through the human psyche.
Mhm.
Because you need
Yes.
a lot
Mhm.
of skill actually, and not just psychological skill to manifest such things.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I guess the more we understand the workings of all that's at play,
Mhm.
um, it seems to me it follows that we will both be working to manifest something at that psyche level, but also taking actions in the world to bring it into, is a continuation of the same thread. We will act upon that in a way that it does bring it into fruit in this physical world too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the way that we feel, we act upon it,
Mm,
and and not just unconsciously, but consciously. If you have a certain realization or you have an intention, and that's the way that you act upon it.
hmm
That's a very important part of any spiritual tradition, and even within religion, is how do you participate in life in a way that you contribute to it in
mm,
a good way, in a spiritual way. So no, it's
yes.
completely
Mm,
true. Manifestation is also the action, the law of karma within the world. Yeah.
mm,
Mm.
yeah. So looking at this from what's taking place when people engage in this notion, like they are thinking, oh, I can manifest,
Yeah.
and start to do practices of, it could be affirmations or vision boards or anything.
Mm,
And it seems to me largely what's happening, and it does work to an extent, because they're using, if we look at this again from a Kabbalah perspective, they're kind
mm,
of on that lower part of the tree and thinking things at that kind of identity level
mm.
that does trickle down, does have an impact. And
Yeah,
yet it's limited to what, as you said, they're already conscious of.
yeah.
And there's also going to be kind of all sorts of factors that they're not conscious of, that sort of that are
Mm,
going to be working potentially against that.
yeah,
And not least the fact is not necessarily aligned with what we might call their soul or self with a capital S.
yeah.
But again, it can work because it still is using that last part of the process in a way that does work. It just has a limited impact.
It does. Yeah. That would be indeed the difference between conscious participation in manifestation and unconscious
Mm,
participation in it. Because from the unconscious, everything happens anyway.
mm,
But in certain streams of thought and metaphysical traditions, you are interested in how do I contribute to this life,
mm,
um, and maybe in a devotional way to the source. How does the source wish to manifest, and how do I want to participate in it? And then you
mm,
need more than just unconsciously go with the flow of manifestation. You want to
mm,
know, how does this come about? And what may be the intention of this holy source, this sacred source, to come into manifestation?
mm,
For example, within the Kabbalah, the highest world of divinity is the world of wholeness and perfection and perfect equilibrium, if you will.
mm,
So those are pointers for us if you want to participate in manifestation, is that is your core intention.
mm,
And within the psyche, you want to bring everything within you and in relationship to the world in a state of healing and balance and harmony. Um, and that's like a leading thought, a magical thought,
mm,
if you like, within that process. And then even then, you don't know maybe how it comes about. So the metaphysical domain and how those principles work may not be known to you, but still from the psyche, you may have this clear intention: I am of service to something greater, and I use this particular consciousness, this quality of healing, for example, of wholeness, to bring it into the physical domain of manifestation.
mm. Yes, there's so much there, and I was thinking that's actually the biggest, let's say, before and after, manifestation done from this kind
Mm,
of new agey way of interacting with it versus this deeper understanding.
mhm,
The biggest shift is why you're doing it, what you're aligning with, what you're in service to, what you're
mm.
devoting to.
Yeah.
And my own experience of that too, not just personally, but also in my work with others, is when we are, I'm picturing it a bit like this
Mm,
sort of stream of energy. It's like we are in alignment with what's flowing down already,
yeah.
and it seems like these things happen in a far smoother way. It's like when our North Star is unity, let's say,
Mhm.
it flows down into what we want to manifest, that is already kind of aligned with how manifestation wants to come into existence anyway. It's not particularly a neat way of saying it, but that's, I can
I
I can
follow.
feel it and I can't quite describe it.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, it makes sense. And you say something, well, everything you say is important, but that one word, alignment, is something I use in my first book, addressing these kind of ideas about manifestation.
Hmm.
How does the human psyche participate in the manifested process? or the process of manifestation. And what I say in regard to the Kabbalah is that to really manifest something full consciously, everything within you has to be aligned to the process and the intention.
Mm.
So it cannot be that your feelings and your cognition, your head wants something completely different, or the
Mm-hmm.
body. So the different worlds that contain the different parts of your being, they need to be consistently within alignment with the intention and to the will of what you want to manifest. And that
Mm.
is quite something, because most of the time, our motives are all over the place.
Yes.
Or you may have a concentration of something that you want, and it may go out of the window within 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big challenge for us. And that's
Yes,
in
absolutely.
contrast.
Mm.
That's in contrast to often how they describe the divine will, which is like a straight line down, and it doesn't waver.
Mm.
That is just the concentration of divine will of manifesting everything as it should be. So you imagine that this existence, this universe, is exactly as it is, and it maintains the way it is, also in the living process, because the divine has its concentration always on how this should be. It's an amazing
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
Mm. That the importance of what I might name as focus is more than focus, but I think
Mm.
putting it in simple words is
Yeah.
that ability to sort of focus on what it is that is
Mm.
aligned to manifest and we want to manifest.
Yeah.
Um, my sense is that's becoming an even rarer skill in today's world where our
Yeah.
awareness is being pulled here, there, and everywhere all of the time.
Yeah.
And it's easy to miss the very real impact of that when we're not even consciously aware of where our awareness is, where our focus is.
Yeah.
It's going to be really challenging to have that aligned flow into manifestation. And I was considering how, again, even if it's like a bit like the baby slopes of learning to manifest again in that new age way, at least it does kind of start to show someone how
Mm.
to place their focus into one place, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking, whether it be in like, say, for example, in the shamanic work that I've done, or it could be for
Mm.
someone else, more kind of esoteric work, prayer, these ways of learning to align our focus,
Yeah.
I think is something that we really could benefit from reclaiming. This
Exactly.
how on earth we can really manifest in alignment with our souls whilst
Yeah.
our attention's being pulled here, there, and everywhere. It's one of those things that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually more of a challenge than it ever has been, could
Yeah.
possibly.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, a few times in the history of my Kabbalah group, I would give the people the next 2 weeks, like the idea of, now let's practice, for example, compassion or loving
Mm,
kindness. Could also be justice. So keep the focus, that straight line, on this intention, and how does it work out? How does it manifest through your actions, your thoughts, your feelings, etc.? And you can see how challenging it is, and how often and how quickly we are actually diverted from that idea, and
mm,
and that we manifest all kinds of things all the time, and we return very quickly to the unconscious
mm,
process of manifestation, which happens automatically through the body and the ordinary psyche. So that's a spiritual challenge there, is to keep the
mm.
focus on that one thing that you wish to, from an intention to manifest. And
Yes.
the level from which we depart in the psyche says everything about our own level of spiritual development. So if you want to have more money or a new car, whatever, you know where you are. You see,
Mm,
and that service of working with higher psychological principles like loving kindness or beauty, um, that's a different level of trying to manifest something and to practice how
Mm.
to co-create with divinity. And it takes intention, but it takes ook the art of imagination. And
Mm.
I want to say this with some emphasis because of what you said. In these times, we are not being very much invited to creatively participate in manifestation, especially not
Mm.
through social media, computers, and everything, because the images are being created for us
Mm.
and it goes so quick. We are not being invited to train our focus for extended amount of time.
Mm.
So it's not, most of what technology brings us is not helping us at all in the process of manifestation. If you look at
Mm.
AI and Chat GPT, it's being done for us.
Yes, I read an interesting study. I'm not going to quote this
Yeah.
particularly accurately because I can't quite remember the details, but it was something along the lines of it took two groups of people who had to do some kind of task. Let's say it was writing an email or something along those lines,
Mm.
or an article. And one group could use AI, let's say, I don't know what form it was, and one
Yeah.
didn't. And so the
Mm.
group that could use AI
Yeah.
initially performed better, as in, think the idea was they would use AI as assistants, but then ultimately kind of write the thing themselves,
Yeah.
and the other group didn't. And so the AI assisted group initially performed better. What was
Yeah.
really interesting is then kind of go on another couple of weeks, then
Mm.
performing the same test, the people who had the assistance of AI then no longer had the assistance of AI. They then performed worse than the group that never had the assistance of AI.
Of course.
And I was like, my gosh, this is an experiment that's happening in the world at large right now.
Yeah.
Quite a chilling experiment, but says so much.
Very
And
much.
completely supports what you're saying there.
Yeah.
What I was you read my mind actually, because I was pondering as you were talking about the way that, even keeping our focus on something like loving kindness for 2 weeks can be such a challenge. I was pondering how noticing where we naturally are drawn, noticing what we're naturally drawn to,
Yeah.
can be a really helpful way to not just begin, but go deeper with. And as you know, beauty is one of my sort
Yeah.
of deepest values, devotions, something that has been like this North Star for me to return to over and over again in my life.
Yeah. Mm.
And as I've been able to connect with that in a more like a spiritual way, a conscious way,
Mm.
to a large extent, almost everything I manifest comes back to beauty.
Yeah.
And so
Mm.
it's this sort of meta, I guess, meta principle or meta alignment that then flows into anything else that I might focus on.
Mm.
And I feel that's often the case for others, but it's uncovering what is that for me. And it's not something um necessarily that our culture says it's okay to value. For me, getting to a point where I could say, actually, beauty has been something that's been so dismissed, made shallow, objectified, um and yet it's, for me, one of the most important, most potent
Mm.
um truths of all.
Yeah.
And as I've been able to really honor that as something that is important to me,
Mm.
it allowed me to hold my focus onto things that otherwise I think I would have struggled to. It kind of has this magnetic
Mm.
draw for my focus.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your sense as to it, first of all, what that is for you, if you have that kind of North Star, but
Yeah.
also why you see that can have that impact.
Yeah. Well, from the Kabbalistic tree and its mystical philosophy, they might say, for example, that the diagram itself is a representation of who you are, and you are
Mm,
coming from that image and likeness of the divine. And that's not just Kabbalah, that's also old Greek thinking, Gnostic
mm,
thinking. You are made in a certain heavenly image, and that image is complete and total, it's whole. But
mm,
when you are being born, you feel not whole. But some spark from that body manifests through the manifestation of your body. And if you remember it, you may know what your destiny is. That's an
mm,
idea. I'm not saying this is true, but
mhm,
this is a Kabbalistic concept. And for example, in your case, Tiferet, which is the heart chakra, the yellow circle on the diagram, uh, is literally means beauty or
mm,
adornment, to make life more beautiful, to adore
mhm,
uh, the creation itself. So it might be that this principle for you indeed returns over and over again. And it takes conscious observation and meditation to find out what is your core business here.
mm.
And well, for me, it's not per se the beauty aspect of Tiferet, but I am also quite stuck to Tiferet and the middle pillar in general. That's how I feel that I have to function. And I don't know if I told you personally once, but um, my name as Michael is for me always a reference to what I'm doing here. So
Mm,
my line of focus, my alignment to what I need to manifest. This can go through teaching, but it can also be in daily life. How do I keep
mm,
the center when there is chaos or when there is disturbance or whatever it is within me or maybe around me?
mhm,
So that's definitely, and it's a major help. It's like an anchor if you can
mm.
find that 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 focal point and that principle.
Yes, yes, I completely agree. It's then when you notice it most, actually, isn't it? It's when
Yeah,
you're challenged, when it's harder to choose that as the focus, that it's most
yeah,
helpful of all to have that North Star that's, always just about see its light.
yeah, exactly.
Mm.
And often you find that there lies your strength, but you're also being tested upon it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
As I always say, the medicine's in the wound, but that therefore, yeah, we have to acknowledge there's often a wound. There's darkness, there's shadow.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I just we're almost up on time, actually, unbelievably. But
Yeah,
just
I
as we're
noticed.
talking about this in a more personal way, um, this is where I see the role of, let's say, astrology can be so helpful in giving
Mm,
us these nudges to what that North Star is for us. As you
yeah,
know, I've got so much of my charts in Libra and is Venus ruled, and of course, so linked to beauty.
yeah,
And so it's not that it was, oh, finding that out. Oh, right. Okay. I need to now direct my whole life around beauty. It was just that kind of, um, I guess, further validation and clarity
mhm,
and depth that allowed me to really see, oh, yes, this is everywhere I look, this is reflected back at me. This who I am is reflected back at me.
yeah,
Um, and I've noticed that's the same, not just for me, but for others that I've worked with in this deep way. That the
mm,
clues of what that deepest devotion is can often be seen. And again, when we're in a bringing it back to the topic at hand, when we're
yeah,
in alignment with that, manifestation just seems to flow so much more.
mm,
Don't even want to say easily, because sometimes it's not easily. Sometimes again, it's we need to meet these gauntlets, but
yeah,
we can feel the alignment, and it does feel as though almost life is colluding
mm,
for this to happen. But
yeah.
I'd love to hear your sense as to kind of the way that this can be reflected back to us, again via astrology or
Yeah.
other means.
No, no, definitely. I mean, astrology is a great help as a tool to find out what is your business here and how you are able to manifest what is in line with your destiny. And of course, destiny is not just something in your chart that's being like predetermined. You still have free will to
Mm,
investigate it, to research it, and to find out what it really means. And of course, it's not static. It can also develop throughout time. Um, so yeah, and Kabbalah uses it according to the tree. So that's very important, definitely. Um, and yeah, if you know what your core is, you know that, or you can find out at least that certain things manifest, like I said before, by themselves.
mm,
So again, the natural world, the earth here, and all its creatures, including your own body, it doesn't need any help with manifestation other than
mhm,
that we care for it with sleep and food, but it manifests, it dies, and it grows by itself, and all these things, and a part of the psyche as well. So it is from a certain like point, like a Pegasus point, where the natural world is at its peak, and where the spiritual world, the higher psychological world begins. It's from
mm,
there that we are talking about now. That's where astrology comes in very handy to see where it doesn't just develop out of itself,
mm,
manifestation. How can we uplift evolution from that subtle domain of the psyche and the spirit? And because otherwise, um, that kind of evolution of manifestation doesn't happen. We
mhm.
remain in the circle of ongoing patterns within the manifestation of the physical and partially psychological world. I hope that makes sense what I'm saying.
Yes, it does. It does.
Mhm.
Um, so perhaps to close, given we've spent much of this conversation in more kind of mystical realms and
Yeah.
not necessarily the kind of practical, here's how to manifest. Um, I
Yeah.
said, or slightly tongue in cheek, I'd quite like to end there. You know, it was
Mm.
almost like how to how
Yeah.
to manifest 101. What would you suggest to listeners might be, again, bearing in mind everything we've said, that there's a vital need for alignment, focus, you know, that
Mhm.
deeper understanding of who we are. But
Yeah.
assuming someone has that devotion, how
Mhm.
might they then more consciously participate in manifestation?
Well, the cliche, of course, is like keep practicing. So you have to try to all the time, like prayer or meditation, is uh, to put energy and emphasis and consciousness behind the process. So
Mm,
any of the listeners, like we had our example of beauty and the heart center, the center of balance, but any of the listeners may have a different idea about what their spiritual business is about, so to speak, um, is to not just keep it as an internal process, but to see how do I engage with it in daily life.
mm,
So within the supermarket, how do I apply it? Um, and how do I strengthen by application my own relationship to what I think is the way that I manifest through my authentic self.
mm,
Because there's a saying is that who you are is what you do, and what you do is who you become.
mm,
So the point of departure is always yourself and not the world. And this is also in a metaphysical sense of the word, God becomes out of itself. So
mm,
the condition is not the world, it is itself. So try always to make yourself the point of departure of the manifestation
mm,
with just one word, like beauty. And see from day to day, how can I manifest this? How can I make a conversation more beautiful? Or the way that I smile to other people. Um, whatever it is. Um, so that's why I say keep practicing. It is a way of application. I hope that
Mm.
resonates with your question. That is,
Yes, it absolutely does. It does. It really
yeah.
does. And again, um, recognizing that our modern world is, I don't mean this in a necessarily kind of conspiracy theory way, but just as a genuine looking out there truth, right now, this modern world isn't set up in a way to make that happen by itself. This really is a
Mm.
conscious choosing, a different way of orientating in life.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because the world that we are living in, which evolves and manifests through itself, a lot of the society that we live in is not inviting us to become conscious
Hmm.
participants within the creative process of manifestation at all.
Yeah.
Oh, it makes, I mean it in the same intention as you said, it makes like sleepwalkers out of us. We are just part of
Mm.
a machine, of a mechanism. And yeah, you don't have to be any participant in conspiracy theories for that, but it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
That's what a society is. And you do your thing in accord with society and with the group, but not within your individual development in in relation to the source.
Mm.
And that is the crucial thing, because there you start to consider, how do I manifest from my own consciousness and a conscious intention.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, that was a kind of not exactly a pun, but it was.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to say beautiful then, but it was a perfect ending. Um,
it did.
where can listeners find out more about you and your wonderful work, Mike?
Oh, thank you. Well, my websites, of course. So the main one is Circle of Avalon, just one word, .nl. It's from the Netherlands, but it's all in English. And KabbalahMysticalSchool.com. And you can find me on Facebook under my own name, Mike Bais, or Circle of Avalon, and a bit of that on Instagram as well. But that's the main thing. Yeah.
And of course, your books.
My books, yeah. Yeah, my Kabbalah book, the latest one, is Paths on the Tree of Wisdom, published by Watkins last year. And it's for sale basically everywhere online. And my older books are self published, and they are, I have to say, a bit more for the experienced Kabbalist, because there I extend upon topics to do with science, like biology and quantum physics on a certain level, and
Mm.
neuroplasticity. So there, I touch upon a few things that we were talking about as well. Yeah,
Yeah, but certainly your more recent book is a great place for someone to start if they're interested in
I would say
the
so.
Kabbalah, and yeah, I think would be a really nice next step. Well, thank you so much again, Mike.
Thank you. It was lovely to be here again. Thank you.
What a glorious show. Here are the parts that are going to stay with me. The psyche is the filter through which manifestation flows, shaping not only what we want, but also why we want it. Alignment across body, psyche, and soul is what transforms scattered wishing into true creation that actually can exist in this physical world. In a culture designed to scatter our attention, focus, and devotion become the North Star that allow manifestation to serve something greater. And if you'd like the links for the show, they're at bemythical.com/podcast/521. And if you're struggling with the challenges of walking your soul path in this crazy modern world and would benefit from guidance, kinship, and support, come join Unio, the community for wild sovereign souls. You can discover more and join us by hopping on over to bemythical.com/Unio. Let's walk the path home together. And if you don't want to miss out on next week's episode, head on over to your podcasting app or platform of choice, including YouTube, and hit that subscribe or follow button. That way, you'll get each episode delivered straight to your device auto-magically as soon as it's released. Thank you so much for listening. You've been wonderful. I'm sending you all my love. I'll catch you again next week. And until then, go be mythical.